My name is Phyllis Johnson, 68 years old, and recently retired after teaching elementary school for 40 years. I never expected to start over at my age, especially not after losing James, my husband of 45 years, to a sudden heart attack. When financial troubles forced me to sell our home, my son William offered me a place to stay. I soon discovered his reluctance when he said those words I'll never forget: "I don't want to feed an extra mouth." He found me a job at his accounting firm. I smiled and agreed. But when his boss saw me, everything changed. Before I tell you what happened when I met my son's boss, let me know where you're watching from and tap that subscribe button if you've ever had to start over later in life. Life before retirement had been comfortable, predictable. James and I had built a modest middle-class existence in our small suburban home where we'd raised William. We weren't wealthy, but we had enough at least. That's what I thought. When James collapsed in our garden 2 years ago, my world shattered in an instant. 45 years of marriage ended with a single phone call from the hospital. "We did everything we could, Mrs. Johnson." Those words still echo in my head some nights when I can't sleep. The second shock came weeks later when I discovered James had secretly accumulated significant debt. Our retirement savings were modest to begin with, and his medical bills combined with the outstanding loans quickly became overwhelming. "You'll need to sell the house," the financial advisor told me gently. "It's the only way to clear the debts." The home where I'd planted perennials every spring for 4 decades, the kitchen where I'd prepared thousands of family dinners, the living room where William had taken his first steps, all of it had to go. William offered his home as a solution. "You can stay with us until you figure things out, Mom," he said, though I noticed he didn't quite meet my eyes when he made the offer. My son had always been ambitious, focused on climbing the corporate ladder at his accounting firm. He'd married Amanda, equally career-driven, and they had 2 teenagers, Josh and Sophia, who seemed perpetually absorbed in their devices. Their spacious home in an upscale neighborhood reflected William's success and his preoccupation with status. "It's just temporary," I assured myself as I moved into their guest room, bringing only what would fit in a few suitcases. The rest of my life was sold at estate sales or donated. I tried to remain optimistic about retirement. After 4 decades of managing classrooms full of energetic children, I looked forward to reading books that had piled up on my nightstand, perhaps volunteering at the local library, or taking those art classes I'd always postponed. The first few weeks with William's family, I made efforts to contribute. I prepared dinners, tidied the house, offered to drive the grandkids to their activities. But nothing seemed quite right. "Mom, we don't eat that much red meat anymore," William would comment after I made his childhood favorite pot roast. "The cleaning service has a specific way of organizing things," Amanda would say, rearranging what I'd tidied. "We've got Uber Grandma. Nobody needs rides." My grandchildren would mumble without looking up from their phones. 6 weeks after moving in during a tense dinner where everyone was present but nobody was really together, William cleared his throat. "Mom, we need to discuss your situation." I placed my fork down carefully. "My situation?" "Yes, Amanda and I have been talking. We don't want to sound harsh, but we didn't exactly plan for another person to support indefinitely." Amanda nodded. "The groceries, utilities, everything goes up with another person in the house." "I don't want to feed an extra mouth," William said bluntly. "We have the kids' college funds to consider our retirement planning." I felt my face grow hot with shame. "I understand. I can look for a place." "Actually," William interrupted, "I have a better solution. We have an opening at the firm, entry level in the mailroom. It's not much, but it would give you some income." "The mailroom? But I don't know anything about—" "It's sorting mail, Mom, not rocket science." William's tone suggested I should be grateful. "I already mentioned you to HR. You start Monday." "I see." I smiled and agreed, though inside I was reeling. After 4 decades teaching children, I would be sorting mail at my son's company, where he was a senior account manager. But what choice did I have? My teacher's pension barely covered my minimal expenses, and the housing market in our area was prohibitively expensive. "Thank you, William," I said, swallowing my pride. "That's very thoughtful." He seemed relieved, as if he'd solved an annoying problem. "Don't worry about professional clothes. I'm sure you can find something appropriate at one of those discount stores." After dinner, I retreated to my room and allowed myself a good cry, the first since moving in. I thought about how James would have been heartbroken to see our son treating me this way. But tears wouldn't change my reality. Monday was coming, and with it, my new life as a mail clerk at age 68. The weekend before starting my new job passed in a blur of anxiety. I hadn't prepared a resume in over 40 years. The last time I'd interviewed for a position, Jimmy Carter was president. Now I sat at the small desk in my room, trying to make 4 decades of teaching sound relevant to sorting mail. Education bachelor's degree in elementary education, master's in early childhood development. I typed, wondering if anyone would even look at these qualifications. Did they matter for delivering interoffice envelopes? I rummaged through the clothes I'd kept after downsizing, realizing how few professional outfits I owned. Teaching elementary school had meant comfortable shoes and washable clothes that could withstand art projects and playground duty. Nothing like the sleek pantsuits Amanda wore to her executive meetings. Sunday night, I laid out my best option, a navy skirt that fell just below my knees, a white blouse that had seen better days but still looked crisp when ironed, and low heels that I hoped I could manage all day. William walked past my open door and paused. "That's what you're wearing. Is it not appropriate?" I asked, suddenly uncertain. He studied my outfit with a critical eye. "It's fine for the mailroom, I guess. Just remember you'll be representing me to some degree. Try not to look too outdated." After he left, I sat heavily on the bed. In my teaching days, I'd been respected, valued for my experience. Parents would seek my advice. Colleagues would ask for my input on curriculum. Now I was something between a burden and an embarrassment to my own son. That night, sleep eluded me. I stayed up late researching accounting firms online, trying to understand the environment I was about to enter. The corporate jargon was foreign to me: leveraging assets, maximizing shareholder value, streamlining operations. Would I be expected to understand these terms? Would people laugh at the old lady who didn't know the difference between accounts payable and accounts receivable? Morning arrived too quickly. I'd managed perhaps 3 hours of restless sleep. The bathroom mirror reflected dark circles under my eyes, which no amount of concealer seemed to hide. Amanda noticed immediately at breakfast. "Rough night?" she asked, sipping her protein shake. "You might want to use a cold spoon under your eyes. That's what I do before client meetings." William was already in his suit, checking emails on his phone. "We need to leave in 20 minutes, Mom. The traffic gets bad after 7:30. The drive to the office was awkward. William filled it with a one-sided conversation that felt more like a lecture. "Remember, Mom, this is a professional environment. People at Foster & Associates take their work seriously. Don't ask too many personal questions. Don't mention you're my mother unless someone specifically asks. And please don't bring up any childhood stories about me." I nodded, clutching my purse tightly. "I understand, William. And if you see me in the hallway or something, just a simple hello is fine. No need to make a big deal." "Of course." I stared out the window, wondering when my son had become so cold. The accounting firm occupied 6 floors of a gleaming downtown high-rise. The lobby featured marble floors and a security desk where visitors signed in. William ushered me inside, briskly nodding to the guards who clearly recognized him. "Morning, Mr. Johnson." "Morning, Frank. This is Phyllis Johnson. She's starting in the mailroom today. Can you point her to HR?" Before I could even thank him, William was checking his watch. "I've got a meeting in 10 minutes. Frank will get you sorted out. Good luck today." And with that, he was gone, disappearing into an elevator without a backward glance. Frank, the security guard, gave me a sympathetic smile. "First floor, turn right past the elevators. HR is the glass door at the end of the hall. Thank you. I managed, trying to quell the butterflies in my stomach. The receptionist in HR looked up as I entered, her professional smile faltering slightly as she took in my appearance. May I help you? I'm Phyllis Johnson. I'm starting in the mailroom today. She checked her computer, then her expression changed from polite disinterest to something I couldn't quite read, surprise perhaps. Phyllis Johnson. Oh, please have a seat. I need to make a quick call. As I sat in the waiting area clutching my small folder containing my resume and identification, I wondered what could possibly be wrong. Had William failed to complete some paperwork? Had they changed their minds about hiring someone my age? The receptionist returned, her manner notably more attentive. Mrs. Johnson, someone will be with you shortly to complete your paperwork. Then Mr. Foster would like to meet you personally. Mr. Foster? The name meant nothing to me. Michael Foster, the CEO. She lowered her voice. He rarely meets new mailroom employees. You must have an impressive background. My confusion must have shown on my face. An impressive background. In what world was 40 years of teaching elementary school impressive to an accounting firm? CEO, William had complained enough about his demanding boss that I knew meeting him wasn't necessarily a good thing. The waiting area offered a view of the office's hustle and bustle. Young professionals in crisp attire moved purposefully, carrying laptops and coffee cups. I felt increasingly out of place in my dated outfit and sensible shoes. Some employees glanced curiously in my direction as they passed. I overheard fragments of conversation. Is that William's mother? Why is Foster meeting her? Did you hear about the Peterson account? After what felt like an eternity, a young woman appeared. Mrs. Johnson, I'm Erin from HR. Let's get your paperwork started, and then we'll head up to Mr. Foster's office. The next hour was a blur of forms, tax documents, and policy explanations. All the while, my anxiety grew. Why would the CEO want to meet me? Had William said something about me? Was there a problem? Finally, Erin led me to the elevator. Mr. Foster's office is on the top floor. As we ascended, my heart pounded. I'd faced rooms full of unruly second graders without breaking a sweat, but this corporate environment made me feel small and insignificant. The elevator doors opened to a reception area more luxurious than the floors below. Everything spoke of success and power. Mrs. Johnson to see Mr. Foster, Erin announced to the executive assistant. He's expecting her. Go right in. With a supportive smile, Erin left me at the imposing double doors. I took a deep breath and knocked. Come in. I pushed open the door to face whatever awaited me on the other side. And that's when everything changed. The man behind the desk looked up, and for a moment we just stared at each other. He was in his early 40s with salt and pepper hair and glasses. Something about his eyes seemed vaguely familiar. Then his face transformed with a smile of pure joy. Mrs. Johnson, Phyllis Johnson from Lincoln Elementary. I blinked in confusion. Yes, but I don't. He was already around the desk, approaching me with outstretched hands. You don't recognize me. Of course you wouldn't. It's been 30 years, and I was just a skinny kid with braces back then. I'm Michael Foster. You were my second grade teacher. Michael Foster. I repeated, memories suddenly flooding back. Little Mikey Foster. He laughed, a warm, genuine sound. Nobody's called me Mikey in decades, but yes, I can't believe it's really you. As I looked more closely, I could see traces of the boy I'd taught so many years ago. The same thoughtful eyes, though now framed by distinguished lines. The same dimple when he smiled. Please sit down, he said, guiding me to a comfortable chair across from his desk. When I saw your name on the new hire paperwork, I thought it had to be a coincidence. But then HR mentioned you were William Johnson's mother, and I knew it had to be you. You remember me after all this time? I asked, still processing this unexpected turn of events. Michael's expression grew serious. Mrs. Johnson, Phyllis, you were the most important teacher in my life. How could I forget you? He proceeded to tell me a story I'd long forgotten. Michael had been a troubled child from a broken home. His father was absent, his mother worked multiple jobs, and he often came to school hungry and unprepared. While other teachers had labeled him a problem child, I had seen his potential. You stayed after school with me 3 days a week to help me with reading, he recalled. You brought me lunch when you noticed I didn't have any. You came to that science fair when my mom couldn't make it. I remembered him now, bright but angry, with so much potential buried under difficult circumstances. You told me something I never forgot, Michael continued. You said, your circumstances don't define you, Michael. Your choices do. That changed everything for me. I felt tears threatening to form. In 40 years of teaching, I'd touched thousands of lives, but rarely got to see the long-term impact of those daily interactions. And now look at you, I said with genuine pride. The CEO of your own firm. Michael nodded, his expression a mixture of pride and humility. A lot happened between second grade and now, but that foundation you gave me the belief that I could be more than my circumstances that never left me. He pressed a button on his desk phone. Janet, please call William Johnson and ask him to join us for lunch. Tell him it's not optional. My stomach tightened. William doesn't know about this meeting. I gathered that, Michael said with a knowing look. When HR told me William Johnson's mother was starting in the mailroom, I was curious. When I saw it was you, well, let's just say I have some questions about how this arrangement came to be. An hour later, we were seated at an upscale restaurant near the office. William had arrived looking confident until he saw me sitting with his boss, at which point his expression shifted to confusion, then careful neutrality. William, join us, Michael greeted him. Your mother and I have been having the most fascinating conversation about her influence on my early education. William took a seat slowly, his eyes darting between us. I didn't realize you two knew each other. Your mother was my second grade teacher, Michael explained. The best teacher I ever had, in fact. She completely changed the trajectory of my life. Throughout lunch, Michael shared stories about my classroom, my teaching methods, how I'd recognized his aptitude for math and encouraged it. With each anecdote, William's discomfort became more apparent. He pushed food around his plate, his replies becoming increasingly clipped. Finally, Michael addressed the elephant in the room. So, William, imagine my surprise when I discovered that your mother, this incredible educator who shaped young minds for 40 years, was hired to sort mail. Can you explain the thinking there? William straightened his tie. Well, Mom needed some income after moving in with us. The mailroom position was available and I think the executive assistant position would be more appropriate, Michael interrupted. The role requires organizational skills, attention to detail, interpersonal abilities, all strengths of an experienced teacher. My current assistant is moving to our West Coast office next month. The timing is perfect. But that position requires significant corporate experience, William objected. Mom hasn't worked in an office environment. Michael fixed him with a steady gaze. She managed classrooms of 30 children while simultaneously handling administrative duties, parent communications, and curriculum development. I think she can handle my calendar and correspondence. The drive home was painfully silent. William gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles were white. When we finally arrived at his house, he turned to me in the driveway, his voice controlled but tight. What exactly do you think you're doing? I don't understand, I said, genuinely confused. Did you plan this? Did you know Michael Foster was your student? Of course not. I taught thousands of children over 40 years, William. I can't remember all of them. Do you have any idea how this makes me look? He demanded. I've worked for 5 years to build my reputation at that firm, and now everyone's going to think I used my mother to curry favor with the CEO. I felt a flash of anger. Is that really your concern? How it makes you look? Not the fact that your mother was being relegated to the mailroom when she has 2 advanced degrees and decades of professional experience. William slammed his hand against the steering wheel. You don't understand the corporate world, Mom. You can't just walk in and be an executive assistant. There are protocols, systems, which I'm perfectly capable of learning, I finished for him. Just like I learned new teaching methodologies and technologies throughout my career. He shook his head. This is different. This is my workplace, my reputation. In that moment, I saw clearly how William viewed me not as a person with my own skills and dignity, but as an extension of himself, a potential liability to his carefully crafted professional image. I'm sorry you feel that way, I said quietly, opening the car door. But I'm taking the job. My first week as executive assistant in training was both terrifying and exhilarating. The technology alone was daunting. Multiple monitors, database systems, video conferencing platforms. But I approached each challenge with the same methodical patience I'd used to teach young children new concepts. Carolyn, the departing assistant, was gracious in training me, though I could sense her skepticism initially. Mr. Foster insists you're a quick learner, she said on our first day together. By the end of the week, her doubts had visibly diminished as I mastered the scheduling system and began fielding calls with increasing confidence. The office environment was unlike anything I'd experienced. The pace was relentless, the stakes seemingly always high. People spoke in acronyms and industry jargon that might as well have been a foreign language. I kept a small notebook where I diligently recorded new terms to research at night. William avoided me entirely at work, taking circuitous routes through the office to prevent crossing my path. When meetings required both our presence, he maintained a rigid professionalism that bordered on coldness. Other employees noticed, of course, which led to whispered speculation I pretended not to hear. Is it true she's William Johnson's mother? I heard she used to be Foster's teacher. Do you think that's why William got promoted so fast? Despite these challenges, I found myself enjoying aspects of this new world. After years of structured school days, there was something freeing about the varied rhythm of corporate life. One day might involve coordinating a major client presentation. The next could center on organizing Michael's travel arrangements. I approached each task with the same attention to detail that had made me an effective teacher. Michael proved to be a patient boss who valued my perspective. The problem with this place, he confided during my third week, is everyone thinks the same way. We need someone who sees things differently. My first major challenge came when I was asked to organize a critical client meeting with only 2 days' notice. The client was a large retail corporation considering switching to our firm for their accounting needs, a potential multi-million-dollar account. The usual protocol won't work here, Michael told me. This client has turned down 3 firms already because they felt the presentations were too impersonal. We need something different. I thought about it overnight, then approached Michael the next morning. In my classroom, I found that even the most sophisticated lessons failed if I didn't connect with the students personally first. Maybe business isn't so different. Instead of the standard conference room setup, I arranged for the meeting in the more comfortable executive lounge. I ordered lunch from a local restaurant known for its exceptional food rather than the usual corporate catering. I created personalized folders for each attendee that included not just the standard proposal materials, but also a handwritten note from Michael addressing their specific concerns based on the research we'd done. The meeting was a success. The client signed with us the following week with their CFO specifically mentioning the refreshingly personal approach as a deciding factor. That was all Phyllis Michael told the executive team during our weekly meeting. She brought a human touch we've been missing. I noticed William's tight expression across the conference table. While others nodded appreciatively, he stared fixedly at his laptop screen. As weeks passed, I settled into a comfortable routine at work. Michael increasingly relied on my input, especially on matters requiring a different perspective. I organized client events, streamlined his chaotic schedule, and even helped prepare his presentations, drawing on my years of experience making complex concepts accessible to young minds. The company held a quarterly social event at a local restaurant, and for the first time, I felt truly included in the office community. Several younger employees sought me out, some asking advice about work-life balance or managing stress, the Mrs. Johnson effect, as one young accountant called it. It was at this event that I overheard William speaking to a colleague near the bar, unaware I was around the corner. "It's embarrassing," he was saying in a low voice. "Foster treats her like she's some kind of oracle. She's a retired elementary school teacher, for God's sake, not a business consultant." "Your mom's actually pretty good at what she does," his colleague responded. "That Westridge client was ready to walk until she reorganized their entire proposal." "She got lucky," William dismissed, "and now I have to deal with people wondering if my own accomplishments are because of my mother's connection to Foster. Do you know how that feels?" I slipped away quietly, my momentary sense of belonging shattered. At home, things were even worse. William and Amanda had moved my belongings to a smaller spare room to create a home office in my previous space. They made dinner plans without including me and spoke in hushed tones that fell silent when I entered a room. One evening, I returned home to find apartment listings printed out on the kitchen counter. When I asked about them, Amanda gave a thin smile. "Just thinking ahead for when you're ready to be independent again, now that you have such an important job." The sarcasm in her voice was unmistakable. I was no longer simply an inconvenience, I was a threat to their carefully constructed narrative about William's success. 3 months into my new position, the tension reached a breaking point. I'd received my first performance review from Michael, which came with a substantial raise and glowing feedback. I made the mistake of mentioning it at dinner, thinking perhaps some financial contribution to the household might ease the strained atmosphere. William set down his fork with a clatter. "How much?" I named the figure, which was modest by corporate standards, but represented a significant improvement over the mailroom salary. "That's more than my first promotion gave me," he said incredulously, "after I'd worked there for 2 years. "I'm just grateful for the opportunity," I said carefully, "and I thought perhaps I could contribute more to household expenses now." Amanda exchanged a look with William. "How convenient that your boss happens to be your former student." "That's not fair," I protested. "I've worked hard to learn everything quickly. Michael says I've already improved several processes in the office." "Michael," William repeated sarcastically. "You're on a first-name basis with the CEO, while people who've worked there for years still call him Mr. Foster." "He asked me to call him Michael. What would you have me do?" William pushed his plate away. "I'd have you recognize what's actually happening here. You're getting special treatment because of a relationship from 30 years ago, not because of your qualifications." "Is it so hard to believe I might actually be good at this job?" I asked, feeling heat rise in my face. "A job you got through nepotism," Amanda interjected. "Nepotism?" I repeated, stunned. "You mean the job William arranged in the mailroom, that nepotism?" William's face flushed. "That was different. I was trying to help you." "No," I said, the realization crystallizing as I spoke. "You were trying to contain me, put me somewhere I wouldn't embarrass you, but would still allow you to feel like you'd done your duty." "That's not true," William insisted, but his eyes told a different story. "Isn't it? Since the moment I moved in, I've been treated like a burden. Not once have you asked about how I felt losing my home, my career, my husband. Not once have you shown any interest in my life beyond how it affects yours." Years of suppressed hurt poured out. I told them how it felt to be criticized for every attempt to contribute to the household, how I'd overheard them discussing me as a problem to be solved, how I'd noticed my belongings being gradually moved, minimized, as if erasing my presence. "I gave up my entire life to make room for yours," I concluded, tears streaming now. "I never complained about the small room, the subtle put-downs, The way you speak about me to your children, as if I'm some cautionary tale about poor financial planning. I've been nothing but grateful for your help, limited as it was. William stood abruptly. If you're so unhappy here, maybe it's time you found your own place, now that you have such a successful career. William, Amanda looked shocked even by her standards. No, he's right, I said, suddenly tired of the pretense. I think it is time. Fine, William said coldly. But you need to make a choice. If you keep working directly for Michael, things at the office will become impossible for me. People already think I'm trading on our relationship. You need to either step down to a more appropriate position or find work elsewhere. The ultimatum hung in the air between us. You're asking me to choose between my home and the job that's given me back my sense of purpose. I'm asking you to consider your son's career for once instead of yourself. I left the table without another word. In my room, I sat on the edge of the bed, feeling both desolate and strangely calm. The truth was finally out in the open. I wasn't welcome in my son's home, perhaps had never truly been welcome. The pretense of family obligation had worn painfully thin. Late that night, as I researched affordable housing options on my laptop, my phone rang. It was Michael. Phyllis, I hope it's not too late to call. I just wanted to check in. You seemed distressed when you left today. I hadn't realized my personal turmoil had been visible at work. I'm fine, I started to say automatically, then stopped myself. Actually, no, I'm not fine. William has made it clear I'm no longer welcome in his home, especially if I continue working as your assistant. There was a long pause. I see, Michael said finally. May I ask why? The whole story poured out William's resentment, the ultimatum, my impossible housing situation in a city with astronomical rents. This is completely unacceptable, Michael said when I finished. His voice had taken on the firm tone I recognized from difficult client negotiations. William's behavior aside, I can't have my executive assistant worried about basic housing security. I appreciate your concern, but the company owns several apartments for visiting executives and relocated employees. One is vacant right now, has been for months. It's yours if you want it at a reasonable rent that works with your salary. No strings, no special treatment. We offer similar arrangements to other key employees. The offer was unexpected and overwhelming. I couldn't possibly. Phyllis, he interrupted gently. 30 years ago, you saw potential in me when others didn't. You gave me opportunities I didn't know existed. Please allow me to return a fraction of that kindness. I thought about William's ultimatum, about the apartment listings so conspicuously left on the counter, about the countless small humiliations of the past months. I'll take it, I said finally. Good. I'll have the paperwork ready tomorrow. And Phyllis. For what it's worth, you're excellent at your job. That's not charity or nostalgia speaking. That's the assessment of a CEO who doesn't keep people on payroll out of sentiment. After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my small room, feeling a strange mixture of sorrow and liberation. The path ahead was uncertain, but for the first time since James died, I was making a choice based on my own needs rather than accommodating others at my expense. The company apartment was a modest one-bedroom unit in a secure building within walking distance of the office. After months of feeling like an unwelcome guest, having my own space, even a small one, felt like an extraordinary luxury. I could arrange my remaining possessions as I pleased. Make coffee at 5 a.m. without worrying about disturbing anyone. Play my old jazz records that Amanda had called dated noise. Still, the first few weeks were difficult. Despite everything, William was my only child, and the rupture between us left a painful void. The apartment, while pleasant, echoed with a solitude I hadn't experienced since James died. I immersed myself in work, staying late to master new skills, coming in early to prepare for meetings. Michael noticed, of course. You don't need to prove yourself by working 80-hour weeks, he told me one evening when he found me still at my desk, well after 7. "I'm not trying to prove anything," I replied, though we both knew that wasn't entirely true. A month after my move, Michael introduced me to several other employees near my age, a financial advisor nearing retirement, a client relations manager in her 60s, a part-time consultant who'd returned to work after losing her husband. He'd organized a lunch for us ostensibly to discuss long-term employee retention strategies. "Really, I just thought you might enjoy meeting each other," he admitted as we gathered around the table. "The firm can feel like a young person's game sometimes." That lunch developed into a regular gathering, expanding to include others who defied the youth-obsessed corporate stereotype. We called ourselves the Wisdom Council as a joke, but the friendships formed there became a vital support network. For the first time since moving to the city, I had people to meet for coffee, to exchange book recommendations, to call when the silence of my apartment became too oppressive. William maintained a cold professionalism at work, speaking to me only when absolutely necessary. I learned from office gossip that he'd requested a transfer to another department to put more distance between us, but the request had been denied due to his specific expertise being needed where he was. The holidays approached my first without family. The Wisdom Council organized a potluck Thanksgiving, each of us bringing dishes and sharing stories of past celebrations. It wasn't the same as family, but it eased the ache of William's absence. In early December, Michael asked me to help coordinate the company's annual retreat. "We need to address the mentorship gap," he explained. "The younger associates have technical skills but struggle with client relationships. I thought your background in education might offer some insights." The retreat was held at a mountain lodge 2 hours from the city. During one session, Michael unexpectedly called on me to share my thoughts on effective mentoring based on my teaching experience. Standing before a room of financial professionals, I initially felt out of place, but as I began discussing how I'd helped struggling students by connecting new concepts to their existing knowledge, I saw heads nodding in recognition. "The same principle applies to client relationships," I explained. "People don't want to feel ignorant, especially about their finances. The best teachers, and I suspect the best accountants, make complex ideas accessible without being condescending." The session sparked enthusiastic discussion. Afterward, several younger associates approached me with questions and scenarios from their own client interactions. On the final evening, Michael announced a new initiative, a formal mentorship program pairing junior and senior staff with quarterly workshops on client communication. "And I'm pleased to announce that Phyllis Johnson will be coordinating this program in addition to her executive assistant duties." The expanded role came with another raise and a new title, Executive Assistant and Professional Development Coordinator. I noticed William's tight expression across the banquet hall as others congratulated me. A week before Christmas, my phone rang with William's number, the first direct contact in months. "Mom," he said, his voice carefully neutral. "Amanda and I were wondering if you'd like to join us for dinner this Sunday." The invitation caught me off guard. "That would be nice," I managed to say. Dinner was stilted but civil. The children, my grandchildren, seemed vaguely surprised to see me, as if they'd forgotten my existence during the months of separation. Amanda made obvious efforts to be pleasant, asking about my apartment and new responsibilities at work. As she cleared the dessert plates, William asked if I'd like to see the backyard lights they'd installed. Outside, away from the others, he finally spoke more honestly. "Things at work have been complicated," he began, "but I've been thinking about everything that happened." I waited, sensing he had more to say. "I was angry that you took that job with Michael. Embarrassed, honestly. I thought people would assume I was using family connections. And now..." He exhaled slowly. "Now I realize that was my pride talking. The mentorship program you're developing is actually brilliant. The junior associates in my department can't stop talking about it." He paused. "And it made me see that I never really understood what you did all those years as a teacher. The impact you had." It wasn't exactly an apology, but it was a beginning. Thank you for saying that, William. I also realized something else. He continued, not meeting my eyes. I've been so focused on my career on appearances. I never stopped to think about what you were going through. Losing Dad, your home, your job, all at once. It was a difficult time, I acknowledged quietly. And I wasn't there for you. Not really. Now he did look at me, his expression reminding me suddenly of the sensitive boy he'd once been before ambition and status became his primary concerns. I'm sorry, Mom. I was wrong. Over the following months, William and I rebuilt our relationship cautiously. The wounds were too deep for an immediate return to closeness, but each small step, a lunch together, a phone call, just to check in his genuine interest in my work, helped bridge the chasm between us. By the following Christmas, I had settled fully into my expanded role at Foster & Associates. The mentorship program was thriving with measurable improvements in client retention and associate satisfaction. My apartment felt truly like home, decorated with photographs and treasured possessions that had survived my downsizing. The Wisdom Council had expanded into a social circle that kept me engaged and connected. At the company holiday party, I watched with quiet pride as Michael presented the annual performance awards, including one for William's department's exceptional client growth. Later, as we gathered at William and Amanda's home for Christmas dinner, now a comfortable tradition rather than an awkward obligation, my grandson Josh surprised me by asking about my teaching career for a school project on family legacies. "What made you want to be a teacher, Grandma?" he asked, genuinely curious in a way he'd never been before. As I shared stories of my decades in the classroom, I noticed William listening attentively, asking questions about students I'd helped, challenges I'd overcome. The career he'd once dismissed as irrelevant to the real world of finance now seemed to interest him genuinely. After dinner, William joined me on the porch swing, much as we had a year earlier during our first tentative reconciliation. "You know what I realized, Mom," he said, looking out at the winter sky. "I spent years chasing success, measuring everything in promotions and salary increases. That's not unusual," I observed, "especially in your field." "Maybe not, but watching you this past year, starting over at 68, building a whole new career, making a real difference in the company, it made me think about what success actually means." We sat in companionable silence for a moment. "I'm proud of you, Mom," he said finally. "I should have said that a long time ago." The words, so simple yet so profound, filled a space in my heart I hadn't realized was empty. Looking back now from the vantage point of 70, I can see how rejection led to an unexpected rebirth. When William said he didn't want to feed an extra mouth, it set in motion a journey I would never have chosen, but now wouldn't trade. It taught me that it's never too late to stand up for yourself, to discover new capabilities, to redefine your worth beyond the roles of mother, wife, or teacher. Sometimes, the greatest growth happens when we're pushed beyond the familiar, forced to rebuild with whatever materials remain after loss. And sometimes relationships that break can heal into something stronger, more honest, more balanced than before. Have you ever had to start over when you thought your life story was already written? I'd love to hear your experiences in the comments below. If my journey resonated with you, please hit that subscribe button and share this video with someone who might need encouragement today. Remember, your circumstances don't define you. Your choices do. Thank you for listening, and I wish you courage on your own path of renewal and rediscovery.